Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today we're talking to Dr. Aakash Shah, who is running for office here in TENAFLY, New Jersey. He is running for the position of councilman on the mayor and council, and I'm looking forward to exploring his background and his motivations a little bit. Dr. Shah, I was very impressed by what you shared at the Democratic Club. And today's going to be a little repetitious, but this will be for folks who weren't lucky enough to be there that day.
Yeah, no. I appreciate the kind words, Hercules, and I appreciate you doing this. This is important.
I appreciate you being here. So, from emergency room doctor to community leader,
Yeah,
how did this progression come about?
yeah. Well, I let me start even before that because I think you and I share this quality. Look, I grew up here in Bergen County, and for reasons that I can't quite pinpoint, I ended up just really believing that there are a few things more important than bringing your head, your heart, and your hands together to make a difference in the life of another. And so I ended up deciding to go into medicine for that reason. I then decided to go into emergency medicine. You're familiar with the nature of the beast. You've worked in emergency rooms in New York City. Um, and I think that very same impulse is why I decided to go into community service. Part of I'll tell you this to answer your question more directly, Hercules. I remember I went into emergency medicine because I realized that when folks fall through the cracks of the healthcare system, the emergency rooms where they land. And then I started training in emergency medicine. And one of the things that I realized was that a lot of what brings people into the emergency room are problems that those four walls were never designed to solve. And so at that point, I kind of had a decision to make. I could throw my hands up and just complain about it, or I could, in some way, shape, or form, work on policies and programs to address those underlying issues. And so I chose the latter, and that, in one way or another, led me to community work and community service.
And you devoted many years of your life to community work and community
That's
service.
right. Yeah, decades at this point. Yeah.
Hey, you have a very long history of that.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. So I look, it's taken, as I mentioned, right, part of what I wake up and fall asleep thinking about is how do we pass policies, build programs to meet the needs of the community. And so that has changed over the past decade plus, but uh, the recurring theme has been exactly that. So I've worked on connecting the uninsured to coverage after the passage of the Affordable Care Act. Did so right here in New Jersey, but I've worked on a number of other community problems as well.
Now, why Tenafly?
Yeah. Well, Hercules, as you know, my family and I moved here recently. So I grew up in Bergen County, um, and then did all the things, right? Became a husband, a father. As we've already talked about, an ER doc, and we were looking for a place to settle. And I still remember when we pulled up to this house on Magnolia Ave. Our realtor literally looked at us and said, what are you thinking? Because it was well above what we had budgeted, but we had fallen in love with the community, and then we fell in love with the home, and so we decided to invest, right? And like so many of the young families that have moved here in recent years, we ended up investing in this town, right? This home is the biggest purchase I'll probably ever make. My daughter, the thing most precious to me in this world, she's 4. She'll soon start at mom school and she'll do her whole schooling here in this town. And so we've made a very real investment in this town. And part of the reason I decided to do this is because I want to protect that investment.
And that is noble and that is also um, logical. And Tenafly is known for its schools. I think that's
Mhm.
the first thing you hear when people talk about Tenafly. Oh, it has great schools.
True. Yeah.
Um, so, what do you bring specifically to the table,
Yeah.
for the position of council person?
Yeah. So I think it's a couple of things. First off, as I already mentioned, I'm new, which means I come with new ideas. But above and beyond that, I bring a certain clinical mindset, right? In the ER, the essence of my job is to take in a lot of complex information with uncertainty, to identify what matters most, filter through the noise, and then make a decision that I can defend. I believe that the job of a council member is precisely that. And not only that, but in order to do it well in the clinical setting, I need to come prepared and to have done my homework. I think, again, that is precisely the job of a council member, at least one who seeks to be effective and represent their constituents well.
And one of the problems that you brought up is the fact that when somebody goes to emergency room, often that is their last choice. They can't do anything else.
Mhm.
And that brings up the reality that our healthcare system is sad.
Yeah.
Quite in time. And emergency visits are very expensive, and a lot of people aren't insured properly. So the emergency visit that saves their lives puts them in a very difficult position to
Mhm.
get help by social workers.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. There is no denying that our healthcare system has a lot of room for improvement, and that's putting it lightly. Um, I'll tell you this: one of the reasons, Hercules, that I ended up choosing emergency medicine is because by federal law, I'm not allowed to know whether someone has insurance or not, whether they're capable of paying or not. And it's with good reason, right? Because in the emergency room, you just want a physician who's going to do the next right thing, regardless of one's ability to pay. That is very true of emergency medicine. I think it's also the same approach that I would bring if I'm elected to council, right? As an ER doc, I'm trained to simply make the right call every time and defend it. Doesn't matter whether or not the person across from me is able to pay. Doesn't matter who the highest bidder is. And I think the same is true for our council members, or should be.
And you've reinforced my respect for emergency room doctors. I always held them in the highest respect when you reinforced that. That's
Yeah.
an awesome answer. Thank you. And so, as someone with a fresh perspective, what do you see as some of the greatest challenges that are facing TENAFLY?
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you asking that, Hercules. Look, I think the biggest challenges are trust, transparency, growth, and all of these things are tied together. Here's what I mean, Hercules. Look, I've been talking to a lot of folks, right? And I hear from the mom whose son was on his bike and almost got hit by a car near the Tenafly Gourmet, and she identified that it was a design flaw. Emailed council member, but didn't hear back. Right? I've been talking to the longtime resident and father of three who had a problem with the roads and emailed the council, but didn't hear back. I've been hearing from a lot of folks who say things like, Hercules, they say things like, hey, how come it feels like we get 2 weeks notice for a concert happening downtown, but only 2 days notice for a redevelopment project? And when we get there, when nearly 300 of us get there and speak up, it still feels like the decision's already been made, right? And Hercules, it's not unique to Tenafly, right? The reality is that trust is at an all-time low, right? Trust in our institutions are at an all-time low. But what sticks out to me when I have these conversations is that in Tenafly, a lot of this trust is tied to a lack of transparency. And so part of what I'd want to bring, if elected, is the ability to restore trust and the ability to bring transparency. And so here's what I think that would look like. Um, Look, I think we've got to have earlier notice of major decisions going before the council. I think we need a council member who reads the ordinance, asks hard questions about it, does his homework, and then takes real substantive input in the community before making a decision. And after he or she makes the decision, publicly explains why he or she voted in the way that they did. Those are things I can absolutely commit to here and now. Those are things that I think, again, and it won't happen overnight, but one notice, one public explanation, one more resident who feels seen and feel heard. That is how we build back trust. That is what transparency looks like. I think that's the biggest challenge that I'm hearing, Hercules. And then the other thing that I mentioned is growth, right? And I said that it's all related. Um, Look, I want to be very clear. Uh, I want there to be growth. I think to quote another voter in town who I spoke to recently, right? A town is like a shark. It's got to keep moving forward in order to survive. And so I think growth is absolutely necessary. I think it is most acutely felt by young families like mine who have moved to the town and see the desperate need for growth. But I want that growth to not just be transparent, I want it to be smart. And so let me give you an example of that, Hercules. You know, not a lot of people have probably taken a look at something like Ordinance 26-12, or the ones that preceded it related to parking or payment in lieu of parking. I mean, Hercules, to make a long story short, what payment in lieu of parking is that for the longest time, new units that got built in our town were required to have a certain amount of parking associated with it. Because with units come cars, and with cars comes a need for parking. What payment in lieu of parking effectively does is say, hey, you no longer need to worry about building parking with each new unit. You could just make a payment, pay a fee to the town, and you can use the municipal parking lots. How's that going to work, Hercules? I was meeting someone for a coffee this past Sunday at 10 a.m. over at Miller's. There wasn't a single spot on Washington Avenue. There wasn't a single spot in our municipal parking lots. There were 3 cars double parked on that street. And you're telling me now when we start building units on that main street, right? I mean, there's a proposal for a building on one of those municipal lots that had no parking already. You're telling me when we start doing that without building accompanying parking, we're not going to make a bad situation worse, right? So to me, I want growth, but smart growth recognizes that you don't give away parking for a small fee, right? It recognizes that we've got to take a holistic view. We've got to have a master plan. We've got to make sure that we've taken parking, in addition to traffic, in addition to our schools, in addition to our taxes, into consideration when we decide to grow. So that's part of what I'm hearing, Hercules. I know that's a lot, but at the end of the day, it comes down to trust, transparency, and growth. But I think if we restore trust, I think if we operate with greater transparency, what we'll get is not just growth, but better growth and smarter growth.
Those are important problems. And I remember when I first moved back to TENAFLY, I was
Yeah.
at an event. So I did an event with Mythic Atlantis. And
Uh-huh.
parking was a problem and required a
Yeah.
lot of work to figure out where people can park and to get it set up so they could actually park there. That was just for one day.
Yeah.
And in terms of disseminating information, that remains something challenging as well. And there are mechanisms in place that have been implemented at different times, and some of them are still ongoing, I believe. Like there's a newsletter, there is a website, and the website contains up-to-date information about things. There's
Yeah.
that sign that they put up near the Roosevelt Commons,
Hmm.
and there's a email alert, I think, and a telephone alert, and you know, in
Yeah.
addition to now social media. It's hard to send information. I try to do what I can, as do very many other
Yeah.
people in town. They hear about something, so they
Hey,
share it, so more people know about it.
yeah.
That remains a problem. And part of it, I think, is how can we coordinate the dissemination of information so that it spreads fast and wide.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right. And look, I think you're pointing out something important. You got to give credit where credit is due. I think this mayor has been exceptionally innovative in finding ways to get information out to folks. We've got the seasonal newsletter. We've got the weekly message and calls. I think all of these things are steps in the right direction. But I think there's more we can do, Hercules. And it's not just me saying it. We had a meet and greet last Sunday. A resident literally brought the newsletter and said, hey, the biggest decision that's been made has been a redevelopment project near our downtown. I've looked through this newsletter time and time again. No mention of it. So there are opportunities for us to do better and to operate with greater transparency. And I think if we do, we rebuild trust and we end up with better, smarter growth than we otherwise would.
Even just looking at the newsletter alone, they look for submissions. So that's something that can easily be put on a schedule. I know I wrote something on deer and bears and other wildlife that's in Tenafly, how to live,
Yeah,
coexist with it um, peacefully.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
right, something about Parkinson's disease.
yeah,
Proclamation was signed and Hall was lit blue for a week, I think, to help raise awareness on Parkinson's disease. So the newsletter is something that can be used more effectively. We just need to keep on top of it and make sure the information gets out on a scheduled or regular basis.
yeah. That's right. That's right.
Wow, I'm impressed. Those are very long-standing challenges, and you've pinpointed them. And again, you're formulating plans based on facts, and you're listening to people. I'm very impressed.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it.
What do you see in terms of the future for Tenafly? Like, what would you like to see in Tenafly?
Yeah.
Different idea, different picture, something that they're working towards. What picture are you working on?
Yeah. I'll tell you, I think Tenafly in 5, 10, 15 years is as recognizable as the Tenafly of today for the same reasons. I mean, look, ostensibly it is going to look different, but ideally, the Tenafly of the future is one that has grown, but it has uh, grown in ways that are still recognizable, in ways that preserve the best of what makes this community a community, of what puts the neighbor in neighborhood. And the reason why I think that can and will happen is because decisions get made with with transparency, with community input. We get growth, smart growth that happens because the community was heard, was seen, and its ideas were incorporated into what's happening. We get schools that are just as excellent as they are today because the community stepped up to protect them and thought of them before making a decision, right? They did their homework on, hey, what impact will this have on our kids and their classrooms? And then they acted accordingly. And so I think the Tenafly of the future looks a whole lot like the Tenafly, at least in the best of ways. It will be bigger, no doubt, but it still looks a whole lot like the Tenafly in the best of ways that it does today. In the ways that made my family and I move here not all too long ago, right? The community, the people, the spaces, the history, the greenery. Those are the things that I'm hopeful we won't lose.
And I hope so as well, that we don't lose those. These are very important things, and they make for a brighter future. We've gotten to meet the potential leader. Now let's meet the person. Tell us
Yeah,
about yourself and your life path and your family and your interests and all those type of things.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I appreciate you asking, Hercules. Uh yeah, so I grew up here in Bergen County. I am local. I had friends here in Tenafly. I always knew of the town. And um and I went away to hit the books, to learn, to become a doctor, to build programs, learn about policy and the like. But the most important thing to know about me is I'm a husband. I'm a father of a 4-year-old daughter. She's about like yay old. And we're at that stage of life, Hercules, where it's like, it's just It's the best. It's like chaotic because little ones keep you on your toes. But yeah, I'll give you an example, Hercules. We were grabbing brunch at Mommy, just down the road, and we're wrapping up. And she looks over at me and she goes, "Baba." She calls me Baba. She goes, "Baba, can you touch the ceiling?" And if you've been to Mommy, like the rafters are 6.5 feet or something like that. So I just kind of like reach up and touch it, and she just goes wide-eyed, and she's like, wow. And I'm like, oh, this is good. I know it's not going to last forever, but there's a part of me that wishes it did and it could. It's the best. So yeah, that's a huge part of me, Hercules. And I'll tell you the other thing to tie it back to what makes this community incredible. Look, we live on one of these corners near the corner of Magnolia and Hudson, where there's like 10 kids playing out there, right? Like they're not on their screens, they're not tucked away by themselves. Like they're still out in the street, riding their bikes, riding their scooters, playing tag. It's the kind of thing that doesn't happen nearly as often as it should, but it still happens here in Tenafly. It still happens on this corner. And it's yet another reason why I think we absolutely made the right choice, the right investment in this community, and why I feel so strongly about protecting it.
Great reasons, and I'm a grandfather now too.
Hey, congratulations.
Feeling comes back when you're a grandparent.
Yeah, I hear it's one of the few things in life that isn't overrated, being a grandparent.
Yes, one of the most wonderful experiences I've had in my life. One of the most wonderful roles student.
Yeah, amazing, amazing.
Now, how can somebody get involved in your campaign and learn more about you and your campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. A number of ways. The easiest is you can shoot us an email at akashforcouncil@gmail.com. You probably see my name on the screen, but I'll spell it out. It's AAKASHFOR council, COUNCIL @gmail.com. You can go to our website. You'll see that email there. You'll also see a form around getting involved, and we'll make sure to follow up. We'd love to have you on board. Um, yeah, I will. I'll tell you this, Hercules. This is related to getting involved and getting out to vote. Um, I'll be honest, I didn't plan on running for office. If I did, I sure as hell wouldn't be doing it this way. But we've got a good plan in place now. The reality, though, is like I'm a doctor. I take care of people. That's what I do. Um, but I moved here, as I was just saying, Hercules, because I believe in what this community is and what it could be for my family. Um, and so when I come across folks who are wondering whether their vote will matter, look, here's the reality. The primary is in exactly 28 days on June 2nd. Just over 1,000 people are going to vote. If you're one of those people who are wondering whether getting involved or whether voting can make a difference, whether it matters, it absolutely does. It absolutely matters. I mean, this could be decided by less than 50 votes. Your vote, you getting involved, absolutely matters. Um, and and so I hope that people do get involved. I hope people do vote. And needless to say, I would be honored if I could have their vote.
I open my front yard to you. I did to the other candidates as well, but you're all stepping up to the plate and uh, attempting to tackle things that are very difficult and complex, and some problems that are very long-standing and persistent. And that needs to be acknowledged and admired. I believe that the path of public service is a heroic path. So thank you very much for stepping up to the plate. I really appreciate that as a citizen, you wrote it to Tenafly. And what little I can do at this point. I was once very involved in the election, but then I got sick. I used to work with polls. I used to do all
Yeah.
sorts of, we used to do with the Women's League of Voting, the League of Women's Voters. We used to do uh, like talk
Mhm.
chats and dealing with different topics.
Yeah.
And not doing that anymore, but we have Zoom and we have YouTube and we have Facebook. So if you want to let people know about anything regarding your campaign, please feel free to post it. I have nearly 5,000 people on my one Facebook page, and I'm creating a group for this as well. So please
Fantastic.
inform people through what I have available, and I wish you the greatest success in this and all your other endeavors. Before we sign off for the evening, is there anything else that I left out or that you left out that you'd like to meet people with?
Yeah. I think it's what I said last there, Hercules. This election is in 28 days. Just over 1,000 people are going to vote. I know some people are wondering whether their vote matters. I want to be very clear. It does. It could very well make the difference in this election. It may be one of the most important votes you cast in a long time. And so if you're one of those folks, just know that your vote matters. And of course, I'd be honored if I could have that vote.
Thank you so very much. In Greek, it's baba also, or baba, a father.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. I'll let her know. She's multilingual. She'll be delighted.
Incredibly awesome. Thank you. Good night and good luck. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, same. Appreciate you, Hercules.